Today, we're going to do something a little bit interesting. Playing a game that I have never played before, that's in the book, 30 Flights of Loving. It wasn't in the original edition, but this game was added in the 2013 edition. And we're going to see if this was worth removing Mega Man 9 for. What? Okay. So I have absolutely no idea what this game is, and I'm completely blind to it. Nuevos Aires Wheel of Morality Department. Prohibition License. License expires 63. Failure to keep this will result in penalty of... Okay. So we get to figure out what this game is all about. I picked this game to go in blind because How Long to Beat told me that it's relatively short. I can beat it in under an hour. Who are you? Okay. Oh, I can jump. Okay. Are these... So I have no idea. Alcohol-free beverage. Maple Victory. So I'm experiencing everything here blind, and we're going to see if this is really a 1001 game you must play before you die. Ah, so apparently we're in some kind of speakeasy. I think. What? Demolition, mechanic, sharpshooter, confection. Oh, it's gonna be one of these games, huh? Bullets. Yes, I will take the bullets. Forger, safecracker, pilot, best. Oh, okay. Can I have the... more bullets. Yes, I will have all the bullets. I already took all those bullets. Okay, none of the keys do anything else. Passport. Could get there. I think we just killed the duck. Okay. Okay, this is, I have no idea why the book called this a game you must play. We're in a plane. Okay. Sure. "30 Flights of Loving." Copyright Blendo Games. I apparently must have missed something. Alright, let's start with the very obvious issue. I have no fucking idea what's going on. Oh my god. You are not Christopher Nolan. Stop trying... Alright, let's... Okay. Alright. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that this game has a very obnoxious style. Just randomly jumping ahead to things and skipping parts of the narrative. It doesn't make this more artistic, it just makes the narrative harder to follow. now we're at hotel. Okay, apparently we're in some sort of dystopia. Wah, 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 wah. In caso de... Okay, so everyone speaks Spanish here. Club Bok Choy. I suppose I'm supposed to follow my friends. Cats. So many cats. How many floors is this staircase? Where are we going? No roof access. Just looks like roof access to me, liars. Hi. You're just gonna stare off into statue? Okay. Panther Pilser. Cake. I guess I sit with you guys. We're at the party. So can you remind me what the hell was the whole thing about the plane? This game costs $5 on Steam. I just bought it. I'm getting drunk now, apparently, even though we're in a time of prohibition. Everybody flew into the sky, and we're here. Okay. Okay, can we stop cutting ahead? It's really fucking annoying. It'd be a lot less annoying if... Oh. Okay, so that's what the fuck we're doing. We're giving things out of order. Ah, yes. The thing that any novice storyteller thinks they can do, but very, very few people have the talent to actually pull it off. Alright, let's see how you do. Wanted, okay. I'm gonna see where this goes. Gonna Indiana Jones it, I guess. And loading. Forget your past. Thank you for flying with Sugat Air. Forget your past. Oh, but he doesn't need to forget his past because he already did. Oh no, man hacks! Kill them all, wheelchair man! Stop shooting the crows. The crows aren't going to do anything. Okay, go this way. Police sirens! And pink. Was this scene finished? Ah! Personal space! Why does no one in these artistic games understand personal space? The end. Wait, what? That's it? I knew this game was short, but... That's it? "30 Flights of Loving." Ah, yes, and some wine-sipping, sophisticated people just eyeing the game with... yeah, that's not pretentious at all. Created by Brendan Shung. Powered by Quake 2 by id Software. Idle Thumbs. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Now, I don't want to be harsh, but I feel that I do have to be harsh. Because in Facade, this is basically what I was talking about when it came to artistic games and what I don't like about them. And here is his principle, okay? Is this a metaphor for how this whole game is just blowing smoke? Fast-moving air creates low air pressure. The higher... okay, this is... physics? Ah! Sorry about that. Things were just randomly lagging. I'm using Fraps because I have to for full-screen games. Sometimes I do that. All birds need to fly are the right shaped wings, the right pressure, and the right angle. But yeah, just taking a moment aside, this is what I don't like about quote-unquote art games, or a lot of things that try to be high arts. They basically only give you half of the story. They only do basically half of the artist's job and just leave everything up to interpretation. Which, there's nothing wrong with leaving things up to interpretation, but there needs to be something that the artist did intend on doing. That's at least my point, or my view. Like, I'm definitely not in the camp that says everything is art. The end. So we're just gonna ride forever? But yeah, I personally don't think that quote-unquote everything is art. And things that don't really try to be art kind of devalue art as a concept. I mean, this tries to be artistic, but compare this to a game like Okami, or Majora's Mask, or Shadow of the Colossus. Games that have quite clearly reached the height of art in video games, and you definitely get a more fulfilling experience from them. Where does escape go? Career options. What are options? Sound, cancel. What's career? Do I really want to? Developer commentary. This is probably going to get me into trouble, but let's go with it. Okay, locked door. Okay. Portal has one of these. Welcome to the developer commentary for 30 Flights of Loving. Take a peek behind the curtains into the wild and woolly world of game development. Comments are female. Please don't contact anyone. 30 Flights of Loving was originally a prototype for a previous project, Gravity Bone. The TFL product was leaning towards being a very dialogue-heavy and wasn't working for me, so I shelved it. 3 years later, the Idle asked me if I was interested in making a game. For their Kickstarter campaign, I've been... okay. Prototype was a Chinese... Okay. Then I went working from fleshing it out, using what I learned from Gravity Bone and other projects. The gaps between wooden are... The gaps between the wooden slats are intended to give a player a peek at how deep this pit is. Whenever I'm at a high location, I always want to lean over the railing and look down. Video games typically do not include a lean over railing button, so these slat gaps were my solution. It's a little too subtle and a little too dark to be effective in hindsight. I could have tweaked the layout in such a way that the player's line of sight is steered to look down. Okay, some constructive criticism. It's great to acknowledge your mistakes, but it's also wise to try and correct your mistakes. Like, this is a game that you can fix with the patch. It's on Steam. You can update it however you'd like. The blue vertical tracks utilize force perspective. As they get higher, the spacing between the lights gets shorter. This makes the tower appear to rise multiple stories. In actuality, that's okay. Great. Okay, here's a lesson in game design. Players are not inclined to look up or down unless prompted. They're more likely to look all around them because that's basically what games have trained them to do. If you want to get people to look up, you need to draw their attention, and blue does not strike attention at all. If it was red, the chances of looking up are much, much more likely. Otherwise, both of these details are very unlikely to be noticed. I didn't notice them on my first playthrough, as we can see. Okay, now I'm curious. Ah! Oh, we can walk around here? Ah, fucking lag. Okay. This winner's podium was the original sharpshooter scene. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't work. How would a famous face be able to live the life of a sneaky burglar? She'd be accosted by autograph hunters and, hey, aren't you so-and-so? The game universe has a heightened sense of reality. But this is beyond my silliness. What? Okay, you lost me. Okay, what do you have to say? These first areas, I wanted to establish the criminal nature of the trio. The catch was, I forbid myself from using voiceover dialogue, text, or UI. Instead, I tried to tell things through the environment. I like it when games, movies, books encourage you to make connections, piecing information together, and it's fun, and knowing the work trusts and respect you is satisfying. Many players will speed through this world and ignore these environmental cues. That's okay. I'm okay with making games for specific audiences, and 30 Flights of Loving is an example of that. There is a such thing as giving your audience a little too much credit, and that's a mistake that a lot of people do make. You do have to, like, even in the most abstract stories, you do need to give the audience something. Like, you say you're letting us put the pieces together. That's good. That's understandable. The problem is you just didn't give us enough pieces. Forager. Originally, by clicking on Anita or Borges, initiated a small dialogue screen. After I removed these dialogue bits, the Idle Thumbs crew relayed concerns that the character relationships were unclear. Wanting a way to visually convey this information, I decided to make these montage sequences peeking into the characters' lives. Whenever player interaction is temporarily disabled, I get very antsy. I rationalize that these montages are brief, optional, and open to interpretation. Or at least that's what I tell myself so I can sleep easier at night. Well, yeah, I got that they were montages of the past, but I don't exactly know who the main character is, and that was certainly an issue here. Like, I get that they're criminals of some kind, but it's never very clear what their current job is or what they're doing overall. Safe cracker, pilot, best man. Like, what exactly is the backstory? Like, if you establish that they were going to take on some sort of big heist now, that might be helpful, but no, we're just introduced these random people We don't know who we are or what we're supposed to be doing. This is kind of vague and hard to read. I like the ducks, though. I like that you can... I don't know why that's humorous to me. It probably shouldn't be. Yeah. They apparently disappear when they hit the water, though. Alright. The name of the plane, Death Knocks, is painted on the tail fins. Death Knocks is the name of a Woody Allen short story about a schlub's encounter with death. I performed the script in speech class during high school, and I remember characterizing death with the world's worst attempt at a New Jersey accent. Nice little amusing anecdotes. They do make a commentary interesting. This is the first smash cut. These cuts play a large part of TFO. I wanted to make the first one very clear and obvious. Subtlety was out of the question. Anita suddenly appears bloodied up, and setting is completely different. The music goes berserk, and the pace ramps up. The sudden change is confusing. It's not confusing enough to make you throw your computer out the window, but hopefully just enough to give your brain something to chew on. What's with all the blood? Why is there a gun in my face? What's up with that title? I will admit, you did get the job right there. It's definitely interesting, and it did add to the intrigue. How do you force a player to pick up a human body? After some ridiculous attempts at solution, I hit upon just plopping him in front of the door. In order to fit the sitting animation, I placed some boxes beneath him. It bothers me that there are boxes stacked in front of the door. What kind of brain-dead facility staff stacks boxes at the foot of a door? I rationalized Borges pushed the boxes there as a makeshift barricade. It's fairly eye-rolly, but I suppose it's nothing better than nothing. Okay, when I first played, I thought that you had to go up here somehow, because this is moving. It indicates to the player that this up here is important. I didn't even realize that the door was supposed to be open, because in video games, plenty of times, flat doors are just locked like that. So pick him up, which, yes, was strange to me, and take the guns. Open the door. Okay. Alright, this was also really confusing. Instead of manually scripting every person in the crowd, I coded a system to automate people generation. Characters randomly wander near waypoints. Additionally, their textures and walk speeds are randomly chosen. It's occasionally hitchy and behaves badly around staircases, but I feel organic enough to pull off a crowd feel. The system was originally written for a surveillance game prototype that never panned out. Failed prototypes sometimes get a bad rap, and I think it's too bad, but they're always educational and help produce helpful bits of tech. That is very good advice there. Bad ideas and bad prototypes can help you with future games and such. The problem I have here is that no one is reacting to the fact that I'm holding a person who is badly injured. Not the cameras, not the people, it just seems odd and weird. Especially because you have multiple ways to go. And these jump cuts are... I call this the time haul because everything is accelerated. Something I wanted to do but couldn't pull off was changing the outside sky here. I intended for the sky to behave like a time-lapse video in a nature film. The sun and moon rising and setting, clouds speeding by a million miles per hour. It kept looking janky, so I just removed it completely. I'm generally not a stickler for fidelity, but in this case, the jankiness was too distracting. I suppose that's a good point. If you can't do something, you often do have to go for the next best option. Not everything is possible at every skill level. Now this hallway has absolutely no entry point. Even a locked door would be very useful for helping to convey the illusion. See those headphones? They appear just once in the entire game. They're not critical to gameplay. They're for a throwaway gag. That is absolutely the wrong way to make a game. It's inefficient and against the most basic tenets of production. And while doing things the wrong way is part of what made development of 30 Flights of Loving so fun. There's something wonderful about making things you know the player will only see for a few seconds. I guess so. Lots of games have put in inside jokes like the Dirtfish and many It games. At first it wasn't very clear that I'm supposed to put this guy into this wheelchair. Oh yes, and this gets quite jarring, these jump cuts. Alright. The disconnect between the player's knowledge and the player character's knowledge is an interesting problem. For example, the player character knows what this location is, but you, the player, have no idea. How do you bridge that disconnect? I still don't know. I tried to bring the player up to speed as quickly as possible with the environment. The 3 beds, Anita's ease with you, how she doesn't mind if you munch her oranges. I guess that's why amnesia is such an oft-used tool. You know exactly what the player character knows. I definitely think you could have used a few more context clues. Like, if this was a place that we had visited before in the past. Like that speakeasy that never seems to come back. Fraps likes to lag today. My family ate a lot of oranges at the dinner table. It's one of the more satisfying fruits to peel, with that Velcro-like ripping. And I wanted to share that. Bits from your personal life may not always be the most fun part of your games, but they almost always make the game the most unique parts. We never threw orange peels out the window. Anita is a litter bug, and I don't condone her actions. I will agree to that. Oranges are cool. Oranges are probably one of my favorite fruits. Alright, can we see anything on the porch? No. I am very, very tempted to jump off to see what happens, but I don't think I will. And they just pop into existence. You could definitely work on that. You shouldn't have them communicate. If you want this place, if you want this game to have a feeling of absolutely no dialogue, they shouldn't even do the wah 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 kind of thing. It's just confusing, and the player is already drawn to following these two people anyway. They look distinct enough and they're actually going somewhere. It gives the player some direction, and it's definitely one thing I was able to figure out on my own. Yeah, stop lagging, Fraps. It's annoying. Cats. No roof access. I don't know why the sign lies. This is clearly roof access. Is there any other commentary in there? The floating dancers bit was a happy accident. Like the automated crowd generator, I wanted an automated dancer generator. Spew a bunch of random dancers onto the dance floor, make them dance, and randomize their appearance and positions. I wanted to give them some procedural bobbing, like a crowd doing the wave, to verify my movement code was working. I made a quick test to see if they were able to move upward. Everyone just levitated up and instantly loved it. Floating people was exactly what I didn't know I wanted. I mean, it's an interesting effect to be absolutely sure, but it kind of demolishes the world that you set out. It makes it feel dreamlike or fantastical, when, for the most part, it seems like everything was happening in some form of reality. People just flying up into the sky makes me feel like I'm in some sort of drug movie, or not exactly a heist movie. Fun Cutter was a joke from a previous project I worked on. As the release date loomed closer, the reality of the deadlines forced the team to make difficult choices and remove planned features. And so, Fun Cutter was born, a terrible blade that cut fun out of the game. Whenever a feature appeared on some cutting block, Whenever a feature appeared on the cutting block, someone in the design pit would grouse. Looks like it's time to bring out Fun Cutter. Fun Cutter, why do you hate fun? I know that feeling. Making a project and having to cut off things you find fun. I do admire that this is a game that the creator clearly did want to make. I'm probably going to be a bit harsh in some places, but I don't hold any ill will towards this game. I do enjoy it more than I enjoy Facade, let's say. And it's certainly interesting. I guess that the alcohol thing does help elevate how drunk you've gotten. That does make a little bit more sense now that I think about it. Although I have no idea what the speakeasy was about. Okay, oranges. Yeah. Alright, down the chute. What do you have to say? Ah, okay, we're actually literally in the same room. Alright. Luce and Gosling. This is a reference to Lone Wolf and Cub. I demand you read it. Maybe someday soon. In the bowl. During a previous project, the team that I had was a small multidisciplinary strike team. This group worked independently with a group. I'm gonna have a hard time reading that book if I can't read this. With little oversight and were considered to be an insider protected bubble. The group was effective and colored my outlook on how to make games. It's amazing what can be achieved when you find that intersection of resources, autonomy, and time. This is a piece of legacy art from deleted content. At some point, you and your crew were to enjoy street noodles. At which point, the game would become a first-person meal simulator. This was eventually replaced with the motorcycle ride. Okay. Babu, the sound a bird makes. Ultra Boost, the Idle Thumb energy drink that will exist someday, somewhere. Bitter Melon, Servidia, Naros Ares, Maple Victory. These are Place Things events in Blendo Games universe, reference to my previous games. I get all gushy inside when multiple pieces of work all take place in the same universe. As I get older, I find myself more interested in history and genealogy, and I enjoy interjecting that into my games. That's definitely something that's fun to do. Create a bunch of works in the same shared universe. I can jump again. Wanted. Armed robbery, conspiracy forgery, bootlegging. Winston Borges. And the cruel escape. Wah, 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 wah. Seriously though, the Charlie Brown talking really does go against the tone in every way possible. If you want to have a story with no dialogue, you have to have a story with no dialogue. The gunfight sequence had a lot of design challenges. First, I wanted a sense of peril. At the same time, I didn't want to introduce the concept of player death or health. Secondly, I wanted to play with the idea of flow, to get players into a groove. I tried to arrange events in such a way to create a musical rhythm. I'm not going to even try to read that word. And Baraka were the inspirations for this bit. Were I to redo this area, I'd synchronize the gunshots with the bird squawks. When the timing works, it's great, but it relies too much on chance. Okay, I don't get what the birds are about at all, why they're even in here. they just appear out of nowhere, and it's not like you're flying into broken glass. And I have no idea why my friend Borges is so interested in the birds. I'd rather shoot them. Limitations and happy accidents play a big part in development. That is definitely true. For this sequence, I wanted police blockade waiting for you. This was liable to become production hell. Why? It's an outside area, so that requires blocking work and an expansive area. Since you'll be riding in a car, the car interiors need to look presentable at close range. This entails detailed model and texture works. Like Scrooge McDuck says, work smarter, not harder. As an experiment, I boiled everything down to silhouettes. This made the sequence more achievable on production level, at the same time more visually striking. I mean, I guess. Pink, though, I think was the wrong color to choose. Like, white and gray, that looks much, much better as fog and such. Seriously, personal space. The pillars create an awful strobe effect when they push past. If I were to do it again, I'd give them fake motion blur textures, similar to spinning propellers. In this area, I tried to evocate the feeling of being awake at some ungodly morning hour, trying to stretch 7 pages into a 14-page term paper. The streets are completely empty, there's dead silence, and everything vaguely post-apocalyptic. You feel like you're the only person in the world who's awake, accompanied by Anita and Borges. 30 Flights of Lovin' Driven. Or Doom Driven. Okay, wait. This area loosely modeled after the Museum of Natural History in Paris. When designing areas, I usually spend time doing research. This means learning how things work and gathering reference material. I find research important how it gives specificality and grounding. It can take hours to find that one specific look, but I think it's well worth the time. I guess. I'm not very familiar with the place myself, so it is kind of lost on me, unfortunately. Yeah, some water first. This is what I call a blind hallway. When standing far away, the 90-degree bend makes it unclear whether this is a hallway or a dead end. And if it is a hallway, it's unclear whether it bends left or right. I find them deceptive and antithetical to good navigation, so I consider them a problem. Adding a beveled corner helps, as does playing with lights, signage, sightlines, or texture work. This hallway is passable, but only because it's obviously the only exit in this room. Were there multiple ways out, I would need to spend more time making it more readable. Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess you could just add a yellow path texture, like you do here. 30 Flights of Loving. 30 Flights of Loving is the 7th Citizen Able game. The first one was made during high school, so keep your expectations at an appropriate level. Wow. Created by Brendan Chung. Now, I must admit that I'm not the biggest fan of your game. You do seem like a nice enough person just trying to make the game he likes, and I can definitely respect that. I really can. Like, I can't do something like this myself. I mean, I have made stupid little games myself, but I don't like talking about them, and it's not something I pursue nowadays. Music by Chris Remo. I oftentimes work backwards from music. That is, I'll have a piece of music, or at the very least, a type of music in mind, and build a game off that. For Flotilla, I had somber classical music in mind, and I tried to make a game that fit it. Adam Zombie Smasher initially started with opera music, and once it went in a different direction, the game likewise went through changes. 30 Flights of Loving was different, in that I wasn't making a game off of pre-existing music. I found it surprisingly difficult to use words to describe what music I wanted. Fortunately, Chris Remo had a great feel for what would work well in the game. That's... a few people do that, I think. Work from certain art or certain music. And that's not the technical way you're supposed to do it, but it's something that works for some people. Special thanks to all these people. It's difficult to maintain perspective on your projects. First, I know how everything works and is supposed to work. Secondly, everything just seems janky in my eyes. I have no way of seeing the work for the first time, with no prior knowledge of preconceived notions. That's why it's invaluable to have outside eyeballs take a look. Invite some friends, get a few pizzas, and take notes as they get horribly stuck in the first room of your game. Every in-person playtest I've done has always resulted in a handful of pages of ways my game is broken. Yeah, that's not just games, and that's definitely something I can relate to. Lando Games presents Burnout. I can't pronounce. I cannot pronounce words. Benolis, and here's a principle. Alright. Oh yes. Flight. Like, I don't understand how this has to do with anything, really. We took a plane, like, once, I think. And spent the rest of the game in the airport, but that didn't really have much to do with the game thematically. Originally, the player entered this room via a perpendicular hall. From that angle, the airplane wing looked like a long gray bean. That's bad. So I shifted the hallway several feet. This gave a good angled view of the wing. But new problem. The player was no longer being led towards the glowing red button. The final solution was to add this diagonal ramp. This way, the player gets a good view of the wing and is also led to the red button. Even with the benefit of objective markers, minimaps, and UI, it's a good exercise to 100% depend on level geometry to do the job. And you know what, I think there's definitely truth to that, too. He definitely understands some aspects of game design very well. I will admit that I didn't get stuck anywhere in the game, which is more than can be said for some things you buy off of Steam. Oh, and this takes me to an asset room. I guess we're seeing how it's literally rendered? What? I don't know why this is here. Okay, so they all have cameras on top of it, so yeah, I don't think I need to see all the other ones. Okay, we're back here. Alright, so to wrap up my honest experiences, the guy who made this clearly made the game that he wanted to make, and I can absolutely respect that. However, as far as a video game that you must play before you die, I'm going to be honest and say no. It's a little bit too abstract. The random cuts back and forth, they're a little bit too jarring. And it's not at all very clear what the narrative actually is beyond you know these people and you did a heist together. Like, there's something here. You can build on the relationship. In ways, this feels kind of like a demo of sorts instead of a full game. I don't think it's bad, but as the guy said, it's not the kind of game for everybody. And I can imagine some people being very disappointed and regret that they purchased this game, and like even want a refund after playing through the whole thing, as you can beat the game in 30 minutes. I would highly advise not doing that because I feel that's very, very cheap. I'm going to keep this in my Steam library, even though I'm probably not going to play this again anytime soon. Can I say that I'm better off for having played this? That's what it ultimately comes down to, and I don't think so. The guy who made this clearly has passion, and that's very, very important. And I do hope that he continues making more games in the future. It'll be interesting to see where he goes, because, like I said, not everyone can put something like this together. And it's definitely more functional and more well put together than a lot of the shit that comes off on Steam. And, hey, you did get into the original book of 1001 video games you must play before you die. That's an accomplishment. I don't exactly agree with it, but it's definitely something. So I played through this game twice, once with commentary and once without commentary. I don't exactly know why it has developer or I don't know why it has load and saving, because you can play this game in less than 30 minutes. Options, controls. But I think we're done here. This is going to be a no.